Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning to our friends in Thailand. We are now live, and give us a minute or two while we get all the sharing done, okay? Please share the video onto to your friends, to those who might benefit from a discussion on the topic on surrender, which we are going to do today. Okay. All right. Good afternoon. How are two of you today? We have Lesley with us today. Today with me and Eddie. Lesley, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm great.
Hmm.
It's been like a month haven't seen you in podcast together.
How are things with you? Everything okay?
Yeah, it's been well. My dad has already dismissed from the hospital and back at home. So all is well. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
very happy to hear that. So you
I'm
look
so
good.
grateful
You
that I
look
can
very
come
good.
back.
Yeah, you look good and happy, and very happy to see you here today. Eddie, how are you today?
I'm relaxed.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's all? I haven't had time to. Oh, yeah. There's some coffee left here too. So today we are going to talk about the topic on surrender. It is something that that many people say, surrender to the moment, surrender to a situation. What does it really mean when we say surrender? And is it really a good thing? Or is it like waving the white flag of surrender, where we submit to life's situations in a helpless manner? What do you all understand of the topic of surrender? Is it a good or bad thing? Shall we begin? Lesley, you want to say something first?
Yes, thank you. Surrender, like for me, is like letting go of the outcomes. You do your best in whatever you would like to accomplish, and then you put your effort in it. Pay attention and use all the resources you could, and do your best in what you have to make it. Then you let go of the outcome. So in the same way, in the situation in your life, when there's like the circumstance is not going well and it's not what you intend it to be, you just let it go, and it's not giving up. It's just like you are at peace, and then you know that things can change in just 1 second, something like that. So you know that all is well. So whatever happens is for the best of everyone. So it's put you in the path that you are meant to be. Then surrender also means that you allow things to flow and let it be, and you have faith that things are going out in the way that is best for everyone, especially for yourself. And whatever happens is also meant for your spiritual growth, and you can learn something from it. And you can also look at the bright side of it. In that moment, you raise your vibration to be higher. So even the situation is so like extremely mystery and so awful, but you rise above that, you fly above that, and then you are how can I put, you just observe yourself and master your own emotion and yourself before you're going to collect things around you. You focus on yourself first. That's what I mean.
So well said. So well,
Thank you so
so
much.
well defined and so well expressed. Later, you tell us a little bit more of how you have lived through this during this period that is trying to you. Yeah, I'm sure it is a matter that is very close to your experiencing this period as well. Eddie, how about you?
I would like to say thank you, Leslie, for your sharing about what surrender is, and I would also like to make a little clarification about surrender when Dr. Julia she introduced the topic, like surrender to something, surrender to the moment, surrender to someone. That is not surrender. When we surrender, we don't surrender to something because there's a direction from here to there. So when things are directed that way, we have another word for that. We call it acceptance. There's a difference between acceptance and surrender. Surrender doesn't have a goal. It doesn't have a purpose. It doesn't have a direction. So when we surrender, it doesn't have a knowing. Even when we say, I will surrender because I hope for the best and I know everything will work out for the best, the benefit of everything. Actually, we don't know that. When we surrender, when we true surrender, we don't know anything. We don't know the outcome. And it may not be the best for everything or the worst of everything. So when people come to me and say, hey, I'm so surrendered to you and to our moment, actually I don't know what that means. It doesn't make any sense. Or surrender to the unknown. So what does that mean? Does that mean we're surrendered to doubt? Because for me in practice, surrender is a kind of meditation where meditation has no goal. If our meditation is guided or it has a goal, then for me it might have another word for that, like maybe visualization or maybe something more directed. But surrender, when we surrender, we're just one with existence or what is. And I don't like to use the word self because it creates a lot of confusion. Yeah. So when we are surrendered, are we present? Perhaps. Are we in peace? Not necessarily. Are we happy? Not necessarily either. So we don't surrender to achieve something. Surrender is just surrender. So that's my view about surrender.
So surrender is not waving the white flag either, isn't it?
Would you clarify that, please?
Like you surrender, you give up, waving the white flag in a war, like you give up your position, your attack, you give up something. It is not the same as waving the white flag.
That's a good question, because when we talk about some people like Byron Katie, Eckhart Tolle, Jeff Foster, when they were in the hardest time and where they were really exhausted, maybe on the verge of insanity or death, and then surrender happened without any goal or purpose, then they realized something. When you're at war and you surrender, it doesn't mean that you gave up on something. It just means that, okay, there's nothing I can do now. And my efforts from now on is meaningless. So I'll surrender. So in a war, in a practical way, when we surrender war, it doesn't mean that we don't want the enemy to kill us. It doesn't mean that, okay, take me as a prisoner of war, or please, whatever. It's not about that. When you surrender, it means, okay, I've done everything, and now I'm surrendered. There's no purpose of that. You just stopped.
So now you were also saying that surrender is also not towards any direction, and it's not like just now when Lesley was saying, like, maybe the outcome could be the best outcome for everyone. What do you say with that? It's like, is there hope in surrender, thinking that is the best outcome that is for everyone and for myself? What about this perspective?
Okay. When we are surrendered, we can say we are in observation, we are present. But if we have a goal, whatever goal is, it's not here. It's maybe somewhere forward. If you have a trajectory, a goal, and then you surrender to something or to a purpose, then, like I said, that's not surrender, because there's something to be done. To be done means not here now. It's not present.
So some people.
So whatever we are doing here for a purpose, then is a projection. If we are projecting on doing something, we're not surrender. We still have energy to direct ourselves or whatever we're doing into doing something. There is an engineering, there's work, there are things to be done, or things to accomplish, or things to wait for. So it's never here. It's somewhere else but here.
It is very something very nuanced. So in a sense that some people have lumped it all together, like in order to get what we want, to manifest what we want, we must surrender to it. It almost that it sounds fine, but there is a kind of like, it is a means to getting an outcome that doesn't make it surrender. Like what Eddie was talking about actually points out that this means to an end might not make it surrender. Then it becomes a mechanism that we think will get us to point B. But if we are actually doing that, is it surrender? Lesley, what do you think?
Thank you. I agree with Eddie that we surrender to now. So we observe and we're not thinking about the future or projecting what we're gonna do next or what we're expecting or the direction, goals or purpose. It's like it's only now and then. But I would like to clarify a little bit on my my speech at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because what he said, the power of now author. He's mentioned about the resist, the persist. So at that moment that we surrender to now, we also rise ourselves, rise our own vibration to be above the negativity. So in that moment, it's nothing we can do, only observe, and do nothing is also do something. So doing nothing is also mean you are doing something. So in that moment, you embrace yourself, you manage to be at the present. That's nothing, that emptiness. So anything can happen. The manifestation can also happen. Things can change. It's also a blink of an eye, things like that. It has make sense. So I read one story about a king. He was in the war, and then his servant said that when you are in the unpleasant situation, please take off the ring and you read inside, and this will help you. So in that moment that he was in the middle of the war and the warrior of the other side is going to attack him, he opened the ring and read. It said, "This too shall pass." So everything is so impermanent, even the sadness, the suffering, the happiness, or the good. So there's nothing. Everything is so empty. So when you are happy, this too shall pass too. You are preparing that later. This is so impermanent. So surrender also in my meaning, also surrender to the truth of life. So what Buddha said, things are impermanent. That's non-self. Everything's always change. You cannot let them stay like this together forever. Nothing belong to us, and it suffer if you insist, resist the fact of life. You feel suffer. So that's also in my meaning. I think it's attachment. So attachment brings suffering. So when you detach, letting go, you surrender. That's how you feel peaceful. And it's also come back to your breathing. Inhale, exhale. In that moment, there's nothing. There's no desire, no intention, nothing. That's where you feel enlightened. I'm not sure if it's correct one. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
So in other words, from what you're saying, desire, wanting something, and all that, it sits aside surrender. It's like two separate things altogether. You might want something and all that, but it's not so much like you want something, therefore you surrender in order to get it. It's like you want something and all that is very natural to have, but it's not mixed together with being present, yeah, or surrender, isn't it? Eddie, what do you say?
Well, Leslie mentioned just now when she was sharing about Buddha's teachings. She says about impermanence, and she also says about no self, and she also talks about impermanence. And the suffering comes when there is self. We want to create that existence of self, and only when self arises, there are goals, there are purpose. Meaning that when the self arises as a thought, you'll try to linger, you'll have an effort to exist and stay and try to fight against the impermanence. So that's when there's like I will surrender for this, I will surrender to that. There is a direction, there is something to be done, and maybe time and space. Why I say there's a distinction between acceptance and surrender? Because maybe the so-called acceptance has a purpose, you know, something beyond what is here and now. And it comes from a place of judgment. You know, when people are upset, they say, this is so unacceptable, or I will accept this. So it has to come into a point where the verb to accept is a verb, right? And it's a decision. But surrender is effortless.
So surrender, in other words, is a kind of like a state of being. It is not so much like in it, it's not going anywhere. There's no desire to go towards something. And it is neither a hopeless state or a hopeful state, which is both like going somewhere, isn't it?
I'm very careful about using the word state, because state sounds like a condition. And since we're talking about impermanence here, we are actually always surrendered in surrendering, no matter what. We just realize we are surrender. When we are putting a lot of effort and struggling and doing a lot of things, that's when we are accepting or like achieving acceptance or thinking positive. We're doing, there's a lot of energy going on, you know, there's a lot of movement going on. But in fact, we're always surrendered, no matter what. We just realize it. So there's not a state or a condition of being surrendered.
And how about that, beyond this definition bit, the larger question that I was asking, like is it therefore not a situation or a being of hopelessness or hopefulness? Surrender is not hopeful, neither is it hopeless.
Sorry, just to clarify, that's also pertinent to self.
Okay,
They don't communicate.
Can you elaborate?
Who's the one hoping? Isn't hope a verb? To hope?
Yeah.
Surrender doesn't act.
So hoping or feeling giving up or going towards something like hoping that it will, I surrender, I hope that it will be fine, but I surrender, is actually not so much like a state of surrender. Lesley, tell us a little bit more about your past couple of weeks and was surrender a very personal thing for you this couple of weeks?
In the past month, I was like going in and out of hospital because my dad was very sick, and then one thing that I have to accept that at the beginning I was shocked and I panicked and I cried a lot because I would like my dad to be as healthy as he was before this, and then is kind of brain problem, so I worry that he cannot remember me. Then I take time to spend time with my dad, and then there's some friends of mine, they console me, and they said that you have to accept the fact that your dad cannot return to be as he was younger than now, because everyone have to get older. So because of his lifestyle and things like that, making him he have a little bit of the stroke, so he cannot talk well, he cannot walk fast, he cannot remember words much. Then at that stage, I have to, I don't know, I kind of like every time things happen, I look at the bright side and positively. So I accept the fact that he cannot be healthy as fast as I want, or recover or rehabilitate, get the physical therapy and become very fast at talking and remember things very fast. And then I also surrender to the fact, this fact, and then I do the best that I can from the things that I have, and I appreciate people around me, and I look at the bright side of what happened to me. So because my dad sick, so it's bring family together in this time of the hardship. So we appreciate, and we have the love of everyone around, friend, family, and the loved ones around us. So my dad also spend time a lot with me. I come back to him and pay more attention to him, and then anything. I think this event, like, I also the one who manifest this. So I manifest my warm, happy family. So I did it. So everyone now is like gathering together and spend time together. So I think I'm talking around. Come back to the surrender thing. So when I receive, I feel suffer. It's like when you do the one rope and the two sides of people pull the rope. If we this both sides pull the rope, we feel hurt on the hand. So, but if one person is surrender and walk with the other person, so if there's no resistance, there's no pain, so we just let it be. There's no suffering. So at this moment, I feel that I surrender to the unknown. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I have faith that all is well. So things meant to happen this way.
Thank you for sharing. Do you think that, may I ask you a question? Do you think if your dad forgets who you are, or he forgets everything, is he still your dad?
Yes.
Are you still yourself?
Yes.
Because this topic is quite interesting, because how much of what we are, or how much of what we exist, is our memory? You know what I mean? So surrender is beyond how we know ourselves or how much we know about ourselves. Which is different from, can I accept that my family forgot who I am, or I forgot everything? So there's something beyond that, the memory itself. So whatever is containing the memories and everything, maybe we can call it self, but there's something beyond who we are in a self container, and that's what surrender is. What do you think, Dr. Julia?
I definitely think similar to you, but at this juncture, I must tell everyone here that because we have some technical issues, and I'm going to extend the time by admitting another account in. So please be patient with me while I admit this other account that has more than 40 minutes. You know how the Zoom goes. So yeah. Okay, good. So we'll just go on like this. Okay. Okay, and Lesley, you'll continue because I'm trying to do the technical bits.
Okay.
I'll jump
Okay.
in.
Yeah.
Can you mute Julia? I will talk to Lesley. You mute both accounts. So, yeah, Lesley, thank you for sharing your experience. And did you observe yourself during this period about when you were in acceptance mode, or did you have any observation while in surrender? Do you see anything you want to share?
When you mentioned about memory, we remember things, something like that. We have that in Buddhism too. It's called sanya. Sanya is like promise. So in the religious thing, it's like we remember. It maybe in the past life, this person did something bad to us, or when we was young, this kind of person, this personality did something wrong to us. So then when I grow up, when I see this kind of person, I feel scared, or I feel that I don't like this kind of personality. So we call sanya. So relating back to my dad, I think that it's good for him if he cannot remember things well. So right now he is only at present. So he can only observe himself. Okay, now I feel this thing. Now I feel nonsense. Now I feel happy, hungry, or already full. So at this period of recovering, he also do a lot of walking as a physical therapy thing. So he will have a chance to observe his movement, because he have to focus a lot, because his walking still not so strong. His muscle on the leg is not so strong. So his movement is not so stable. So I think it's also good for him to be at present, not obsessed into thoughts.
That's very interesting, because it sounds like a walking meditation where we are walking and we need to feel our feet and feel the ground. I have to be fully present. I think it's a very healthy thing. And
Yes.
and discovering
Dharma
everything again, right?
Yes. Yes. So it's not discover everything, it's also is cover ourselves too. So in the Dharma practice course, they said the teacher said to me that we are very present to our movement, whether our feet feel hot or cold when we touch the foot on the ground. Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it hard? Is it soft? In that moment, we have no desire, no, we want nothing. We just be at present. In that state, it's very pure, and it's the way we do merit making too. Because in that moment, we didn't commit anything wrong. We didn't commit any sinful action.
I like that. That's very interesting because I do see something like that. In Buddhism, we talk about good deeds and merrymaking and, giving food to animals or to people and to the monks and things like that. But I think there's nothing more natural and precious than just being present. And when you say that's like
So sorry. Our Zoom just went off. Let's wait a while for both of them to come back in again. I beg your patience while Eddie and Leslie come back in again. So, technical issues. So sorry. There was a technical issue. I tried to avoid it by putting in another account, but it didn't work. So sorry. For you to flip out and in again. Eddie, can you continue and repeat what you said?
So I was saying that what Leslie says is very relevant and interesting, where she says that now her dad is more present to himself. Like if he's hungry, his effort that he makes while walking, every of that, she says, is like merrymaking because he's very present. And some people need to train that by sitting down and quietly and meditate. But if we can mindfully, in every little thing we do in life, in our daily life, being present, that's like merrymaking. I think that's like as much value as sitting down the 24 hours and meditation, because being aware and being present to every single thing we do and every surrounding where we are, that's a huge merit.
Well, I want to ask both of you a question. This concept of merit per se, isn't it a goal? And then when we have merit in our minds, does it make surrender still surrender?
Merit is a word that Buddhists they chose as good deeds or something that propagates peace. So for me, as I see, when we have a goal to promote peace, to be honest, there's no difference between that, between good deeds or bad deeds. It's just action, which is not necessarily converted to presence. But when Lesley put it at that way, describing that her dad was simply present, therefore it's seen as merit making in Buddhism. He's not doing something, he's just being. There's a huge gap, and I think if we use our mind to understand, I think we will not experience it, because being present to everything we do without purpose is different from doing something to promote peace, something good for the next life. You know, it's very different.
Can I talk? Okay. What you said remind me of the Buddha story. After the Buddha already passed away, all the students of his become enlightened except one. I think it's his cousin or his nephew. That one, he is the one who taking care of Buddha all the time. He's like Buddha age. So he's the only one who is not, he was not enlightened yet, and everyone was waiting for him, because that's the one night every enlightened monk, they have to gather together to how you say it, to examine what Buddha said and write it in the book. So because this person stay with this enlightened monk stay with the Buddha all the time, and he asked Buddha to promise him every day when the Buddha go out and touch other people, anyone, when he comes back to the bedroom, he have to touch him as well. So every day, this monk, he know every story that Buddha taught. So everyone was expecting him to be enlightened before going to the meeting. So that night, he tried very hard to meditate, walking, mindful meditation and everything, until last minute. He feel that he want to give up everything. He let go of everything and want to lay down and sleep. So in that moment that he going to put himself lay down to the bed, before hitting the bed, he got enlightened. So in that moment, he surrendered to everything. He's like, whatever happens, gonna happen. So he let it be. So I think in that time, in that second moment that he got enlightened, he had no purpose, no intention, no aim, nothing at all. He just surrendered. So without expecting anything, he gained everything. So it's the same thing that somebody taught me, that when you want nothing, you get everything. So some people they also pay this when they make merit making, that please give me that make me feel how you say it, I want to be like the person who want nothing. So in that time you let go of everything, you let go of desire, let go of anger, let go of the wanting thing, selfish. So this is my opinion.
This is interesting because you see, he wanted Buddha to teach him everything. He's still a lot in the mind, understanding, try to understand things. And he had a goal, like every time Buddha came, he had to go there. So he's very in the action, very in the studying, very in the mind. And how much surrender is there, like when we're doing that, right? So this reminds me of a story between the traditional Buddhism and the Zen Buddhism. Some very old traditional monks, they don't agree with the Zen Buddhism because, you know, Zen Buddhism is a little bit more of practice of mindfulness, and it takes out a lot, like a more simple way, and not much of all the chanting, all the mantra and everything else, and all the study and all the kind of difficult traditional study. But it's more like mindfulness, being present. Even the meditation, it's like with the eyes slightly open when they're doing zazen. So it's more in tune with the everyday living. So almost like living mindfully, living present. And it's much criticized because if we talk about like the traditional Buddhism, where had to be done like this, has to be in this style, people had to study this much, and then that becomes more important than being present, then there's always an achievement, a goal, or somewhere to get to, or I have to do all this difficult and maybe a little bit of suffering in order to get enlightenment, you know, instead of being present. Then there's no enjoyment of life, you know. So when we're losing our memories, we're also losing our value system. We're losing a lot of our rules and laws of what we think is good or bad, efficient, everything. And then we start becoming more simple, like children, like kids, and be more present to what we're doing, what we're feeling, and what, you know, everything. So this is where I think understanding, knowledge, and, you know, values, the ego tried to replace that on the actual present moment, present life, you know, awareness. So is that easy to let go? No. Maybe you have to go through depression, maybe some people have some very difficult things in life, situations, or loss of somebody, or, you know, some health conditions. But we don't have to go all the way there, you know. So is being surrendered a choice? Being present, is that a choice? Is this something consciously we have to choose? Not necessarily. And this is where people have to get exhausted and tired. You know, like you said, Leslie, when the monk finally just about to sleep, he doesn't want to think too much anymore, and then he just surrendered, and then he got enlightened.
Yeah.
I learned from a friend in Brazil. He used to say, we have to be very exhausted and very tired. Then we'll start to see. We have to be so exhausted that there's nothing but come back home. Then we'll start seeing things.
So you mentioned, both of you also mentioned like difficult situations. Usually when people are facing resistance or facing unacceptance, what do they do then to remind themselves to be surrendered? If you were facing a health issue of your dad which was critical, and what happens if it's like facing impending death or cancer or chronic illness? What does surrender look like in circumstances like this that are very difficult? Eddie was talking about very difficult situations. I just hope to expand this a little bit more. Because we do know by now, I think after hearing us talk about it, that an unsurrendered situation is when we are trying to do something about something. We are trying to get from point A to point B towards something we desire, or towards something that we don't really want, or even giving up, and in unhappiness, maybe that in itself is not so much surrender, because we are still grabbing onto that unhappiness, for example, because that's something we want very much. We want to go, there's something we want to go towards very much. But when we face like really tough situations in life that even feels very difficult, how to bring us back to a state, a situation, a being of surrender, the zazen that we are talking about?
We have many examples of CEOs and high executives that just gave up everything after very high positions in their ranking and careers, and then they went to become waiters or monks or whatever. It's how much they were diligent and exhausted from that. Then anything they do when they put themselves into going to a monastery or go be a waiter in a restaurant, having a simpler life, that's when they're truly present and enjoying on whatever little thing they're doing, you know. So was there any effort on that? I don't know. You know, for me, these things, they just happen. Because if you put a goal into that, it's no different from what we were already doing, you know what I mean?
But you're definitely not saying that exhaustion, you know, is a precondition to surrender, or that we have to be giving up material things, or CEOs must drop what they do because that is not surrender what they're doing. You're not saying all these. Could you clarify
Exhaustion,
for our audience?
in my sensing, in what I'm saying, is not to get depleted of energy or tired. It's simply realizing that no matter how much efficient we do things, how good we get, or how much understanding we get, it doesn't take us anywhere. That's the kind of exhaustion I'm talking about depleting from effort, depleting from getting somewhere.
Depleting from making things happen, depleting from having things happen in a certain way, from having certain value systems completed or fulfilled, or having an outcome that we find acceptable to our mind and standards, societal standards, and so on. All these things that are extraneous, external, the action towards certain things having to be certain way is what we need to exhaust ourselves from.
You know why?
Yeah.
Because when we are not there, when we are not exhausted, we have a parameter on how things should be. You know, we're still looking at things not as they are, but through a lens or a filter of values. This is better. This is not the right way. People should go through this or through that. You know. But surrender is also seeing things as they are, without judgment, without forming an opinion as we're going through the event, you know.
So you can be anything. You can be a CEO and letting life come through you in your uniqueness. But it doesn't mean that that is not a surrendered beingness.
Actually, I'm very careful about using the word anything or nothing.
Sure.
So when people talk about nothingness, then that's something. What can be anything is also labeled variability, you know what I mean? So I rather not say anything. That's where silence comes in.
Yeah.
And it's realized.
Yeah. So
Not named or labeled.
not names,
It's realized.
labels, or looking like something, forms, or having it look a certain way. Because I think maybe in people's walk towards spirituality, or understanding that, or sensing that we are more than who we are. We are connected to the universe, or we are connected to each other in ways beyond our understanding. When that breaks open, there seems to be a pursuit for another sort of achievement, like a spiritual state of being, how high we are, how enlightened we are. It almost seems to be like a goal towards something. And even in that, even towards that end, it can actually pull us away from the very essence of presence or surrender for all that is. So, Lesley, how are you?
Great, thank you.
What do you have anything to say with regard to what we were last talking about?
Yeah, only little thing. When you mention about certain things happen to be in a certain way, we don't have to wait for that to be happy. We just be happy. Is it? I got it right?
There's no right or wrong, darling.
Okay. So I love the concept that we can be happy right now, can feel at peace, can feel relaxed. Like what Eddie mentioned about when we begin, he feel relaxed. We can feel that without having any things have to be happen in a certain way. So we can be happy. We don't have to wait until we get something, so we can be happy. We just can enjoy the moment now, enjoy the little thing, like Eddie said. So when we do hobby, when we have pets, we just enjoy the time we spend with them, with our hobby. So it's all about what we feel, how we feel. So it's coming back to the what I usually say that I always ask myself how I feel. So instead of looking outside, we look inside and we surrender to our feeling too. So whatever emotion or feeling that arrive in that moment, we accept it, we surrender to it, but we not hold it tight. We just accept it and let it go.
Yeah. And neither does it have to like look a certain way at all. But back to my question that when the going gets really tough, like tough for the physical body, tough for the usually when situations get tough, there might be resistance in the mix, like unacceptance or things like that. But beyond that, what happens if situations are tough? How do people surrender? You know, it's not the. I know Eddie's frowning because maybe it's again like doing towards something. But if you get the essence of my question, people come to difficult times, and it's almost like things happening that challenges this notion of acceptance or challenges our very limits, for example. Then how does surrender look like in situations like that? Maybe I phrase my question so that there's no verbing going on there. There's no going towards, there's a desiring towards a certain look of it.
So in the difficult times, like how can we know that we already surrender to the situation?
Yeah, how do people
Or we should hold on?
How do people be surrendered when there's so much stress going on?
When you feel stressed, it's time to relax and then you let go of the thing that make you stressed. But I was wonder, how can we know that we should hold on to what we doing, like perseverance, like in the photo that a person digging in the dirt to find the diamond, and it's only 1 centimeter he will get that diamond. But if he surrender, give up, he's not gonna get that diamond. So how can we know that we should hold on or we should surrender?
Exactly, we don't know, and it doesn't really matter. Everything happens as it is. It's our reality. We just observe that. There's
So
no
even
how.
even if the going gets tough, what
Getting
would you
tough,
do when your going gets tough?
getting tough, it's an attribution that we make. It's only tough if we see it that way. Maybe it's just what happens every day. Maybe it's not. Or whether we make it tough or not. It's attributional label and values. Something that could be tough for you. Maybe if you go to Ethiopia, maybe it's a luxury there. Maybe it's something appreciated. So what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything, but it's just how things are perceived and seen. Maybe we're in a lockdown, we're worried, oh, what should I do now? I have to eat McDonald's and it's not healthy. What about the countries that never had lockdown and they will never have, but they also don't have food, for example? So, which situation is tough? None of them. You understand? Or all of them. It depends on, you see, this attribution that we give to a situation is only showing how much that situation is not being observed. Are we observing the situation and that situation is creating us or defining us, or we're just there,
So
happening with it.
in other words, when we even begin to label something as tough, good, bad, or not, we are already not in a surrendered situation. It's not surrendered.
I said there is no state of surrender or
Yeah.
stage. But I don't want to intellectualize this. I think I already said it. And there's no explanation that could replace or make this clear, because even clarity does not define surrender. So you may ask, oh, so what we're doing here? Then my answer would be, this is a very excuse to interact, enjoy, and be present. The excuse of talking and this existence, this whole event.
Mm. Mm.
You see the silence so
Precious.
so precious. Maybe you can hear the surrender.
What to say?
No, that's exactly the beauty of it, you know. When the student of Buddha, the last one to be enlightened, he didn't have anything to say anymore. You know, Eckhart Tolle is sitting on the bench in the park. He didn't have anything to say anymore or to understand. You know, when people are in depression and like in the verge of madness, they really have nothing to say anymore.
You're muted.
I couldn't hear.
I want to thank our viewers today for watching and being with us again. And I'm grateful for this and the lack of words.
Me too.
It's so enjoyable.
I
Would you
couldn't
like to
hear
say?
now.
Yes, Leslie, sorry.
Oh, are we about to finish? Or?
Yeah, would you like to conclude? You can tell us. See,
I would like to say something.
please.
But I have to read.
Yeah,
Because-
read from your phone, right?
Oh, thank you. Because my teacher as Brahma Kumari, she giving some definition about surrender. I would like to read. It's very short, so maybe it will be beneficial and helpful.
Mm.
Okay. She said, surrender is the state of letting go due to detachment. While loving to the truth, we will do everything with interest and a lot of attention to the fullest extent, but detached from the outcome with the faith that whatever happened was good, whatever is happening is better, and whatever is going to happen will be the best. So we have no any expectations. So okay, I come back. Thank you. So when there is no expectation, there is no disappointment. One of my friends, Pooh, she talked to me and she said that surrender is also surrender to the impossibility. When you realize that something that you expect it to happen, but is it impossible to happen, or in any case, this circumstance cannot be in the way that you would like it to be, you surrender and you gracefully accept it. So I think it's the same as manifestation. So you have faith that all is well and what you want is already within you. So there is nothing to be worried, anxious, or uncomfortable, because it's like boiling water. When you put the electrical appliance, the water, hot pot, what do you call the kitchen, you're not gonna stand there and waiting until the water boiling. It will be very anxious. You never like walking to the kitchen and look at the kitchen and the electric appliance to see when the water is gonna boil. So it's same as manifestation. You know it's gonna boil. So you're just doing things, enjoy your life, pet your pet, do whatever you feel happy, do it more, or whatever make you feel happy. And the thing you want will come to you without you like, oh, it's come already. So once you realize it's already come. So, thank you.
It reminds me, I love the water boiling analogy. Like life is happening anyway. Life is happening anyway, and we go along and we fall forward. We age, we fall forward, we shed things that are not us. Maybe we will realize, maybe we don't. But it reminds me of something what Ramana Maharshi was talking about. He's saying that, you know, his disciples, they were asking him like, so how do we become enlightened? Again, that eternal question that spiritual people want to ask, like, how do I? He says, well, just be as you are, talk as you would, do as what is coming up, just be, and that will bring you, that is what all you're supposed to do. There's nothing else like a formula or ingredients towards something. Life is happening, and whatever is happening is as it should be. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very much grateful for everyone being here. And we'll let our viewers know what's gonna be the next topic of next week.
Take care, and Leslie, best regards to your dad, yeah?
Thank you so much.
And have a good week.
Have a good week.
You too. I appreciate everything. So thank you. Have a great day.
Blessings and much love.
See you.
Bye. Bye.